My 26-year-old sister, who identifies as male, has been dating a guy named Jake, not his real name, who is 27, for 6 months now. My parents were very happy that she finally had a boyfriend because she had previously expressed disinterest in dating. On the other hand, as a brother, I was a little concerned because I didn't want my sister to be hurt or harmed. Yesterday was our dad's birthday, and my sister invited Jake to visit us for the first time. We have a family tradition that when it's Dad's birthday, everyone over 15 must drink the cherry tincture Dad made himself. It's not strong at all, and even the kids don't get intoxicated on it. However, when Mom poured it for Jake, he refused, saying he didn't drink alcohol. Mom reassured him that it wasn't strong and suggested he could just take one sip if he didn't want the whole glass. But Jake insisted he never drank alcohol, not even a sip. I then told him he was only a guest in our home and should honor our traditions. Jake blushed and revealed he couldn't drink alcohol for medical reasons. I argued that one sip would do nothing and accused him of disrespecting our dad. My sister was embarrassed and asked Jake to take a sip. Dad, feeling embarrassed too, said it was okay if Jake didn't drink the tincture. Eventually, Jake gave in and took a tiny sip. Spoiler, he spent the whole evening with us, and nothing terrible happened to him. After he left, a small argument erupted in our house. My dad thought I acted like a selfish child. My mom didn't see anything wrong with what I did, and neither did I. My sister seems undecided about which side to take. Am I the idiot for telling my sister's boyfriend that he's just a guest in our house? You are the idiot. If someone doesn't drink for medical reasons, you are risking their life by pressuring them. What sort of messed up guest etiquette says that guests should risk their lives to appease a whiny little boy? If someone doesn't drink for religious reasons, you're disrespecting their core beliefs. What sort of messed up guest etiquette tells someone to disregard their core beliefs completely? But they were okay from the one little sip. OP says, but really has no way of knowing if the boyfriend was okay or just hiding it. Who knows if the boyfriend was on the verge of puking, had intestinal distress, or any other side effects they suffered because they aren't supposed to have alcohol. Or maybe it's not even physical. Perhaps they've been 5 years sober and are now battling strong urges to pick the bottle back up. Good job, OP. You are the idiot for sure. Agree, you're acting like a selfish child. On a completely different note, forcing guests to partake in family traditions is weird. Sure, ask if they want to be included. But if they say no, it should end there. Learn to stay in your lane and leave people alone. You're young enough to learn this lesson, but old enough that it's genuinely ridiculous that you haven't already. I, a 38-year-old female, am married with 2 children. Twin girls, Amy and Nina, who are of young grammar school age. We live in the same town as most of our family, in the house I inherited from my grandfather. It's the biggest house in the family, so we often host family gatherings. My husband's youngest sister, Jane, 31, has been traveling for work ever since her early 20s. In mid-2022, she moved in with her fiancé about half an hour's drive from us. Since then, Jane has regularly attended family gatherings and rebuilt relationships with her family members. The only thing she never bothers to do is address my daughters by their names. Amy and Nina are identical twins. I understand when people refer to them as the twins, but I think it's important that their individuality is respected. I always tell family and friends that at their age, it's important for them to have their own identity, and if possible, please treat them as individuals rather than a pair or a unit. My girls have different interests and hairdressing styles, so it's not hard to tell them apart. Jane always insists on calling the girls the twins and makes no effort to distinguish them. I have asked her many times to treat them as individuals, like her other nieces and nephews, but Jane would say okay and then keep doing the same thing. Last Christmas, Amy made paper cranes and Nina painted flower pictures as their Christmas gifts for everyone in the family. They signed their names and individually handed the gifts to everyone. Jane's fiancé had to work this year and didn't join us. So after brunch, she video called him in the living room, while the rest of us did our things nearby. Her fiancé saw the crane in her hand and asked where she got it. Jane said, "Oh, one of the twins gave it to me for Christmas." The other twin drew some flowers. I felt this was disrespectful, as my girls put a lot of effort into the gifts and deserve recognition for their private dedication. When everyone left, I told Jane I expected her to call my girls Amy and Nina from now on and to treat them like individuals and know their differences. Jane said that she won't bother, as my girls are too young. So I told her she was banned from my house until she learned how to address my girls by their names. Jane just stomped off. My husband agreed with me on this. A few days ago, my mother-in-law called to plan my husband's birthday. I told her we could have the party at my house like usual, but Jane wouldn't be invited. My mother-in-law was alarmed and asked why. When she learned of what happened, she was mad at Jane. Jane called me a few hours ago, calling me an idiot for making a big deal out of something insignificant. She said my girls would be known as the twins, whether I like it or not. And once they get older, people will recognize them as individuals, but not now when they're young and just another couple of girls. She said she deserved to be with her family for her brother's birthday, and that I needed to let it go. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. As the mother of identical twin girls, now adults, I was very intentional about clearly treating them as individuals while still enjoying the uniqueness of being twins. It's incredibly important to create an environment where they're treated as two separate humans, not a unit. They've commented more than once how much they appreciated this growing up. Stick to your guns on this. It's one thing for strangers to address them as the twins, and a very different one for someone so closely related to do so. I grew up with two identical twins as very close friends, and the competitiveness and lack of individuality encouraged by their parents and family scared them for life. Seeing them grow apart and become vindictive as we've grown older has been so sad. Instead of having a built-in friendship for life, they keep arguing as 10-year-olds about the pettiest things. It's only gotten worse now that they're in the marriage and kid stage. At their age, that's insane. I could see it while they're babies, but she's taken it way too far. Your girls deserve to be individuals and not have their identity smushed into a collective single. She is dehumanizing your babies by doing this. Maybe address Jane as Bubby's sister instead of using her name. Protect your babies. There's absolutely nothing wrong with forcing someone to undergo the consequences of their actions. Hugs to you and your family. Give Nina and Amy forehead kisses. Backstory. I, a 26-year-old female, got engaged this summer to Will, a 29-year-old male. To provide some context to where the rift started, here's the abbreviated version of our family dynamics. Will's family is very well off, stable, and well educated. My family is a complete disaster. My grandma raised me, and I've been supporting everybody financially since college. Will's parents, Mary and John, have always been nice to me. Mary pulled me aside at the engagement party and said, "You don't have to worry. Our family will cover the wedding." At the time, this sort of rubbed me the wrong way for a few reasons. The presumption of it all, the idea that we wanted a wedding, etc. Although Mary is very sweet to me and clearly excited to have me become part of their family, which I'm thankful for, she can be overbearing sometimes. Even though I honestly didn't want a wedding, after talking it through with Will, I agreed to have the big wedding that both of his sisters had. For the first time in our relationship, we spent the holidays with my grandmother. To make it up to his parents, we celebrated fake Christmas during the NLK weekend with Mary and John. During the weekend, Mary scheduled us for a session with the wedding planner. During the entire wedding process, I've allowed Mary to do most of the work. She's tried to include me, but she enjoys the process, so I've let her have it. During the session, it came out that they budgeted $300,000 for the wedding. When I found this out, I freaked out. I kept my composure with the wedding planner, but let loose in the car on the way home on Mary. Although I was polite, I made it clear that I was uncomfortable spending that much money, and made several judgments about how it could be better spent. I told Mary that she couldn't understand how most people live, including my own family, and brought up several religious arguments about how the money should be spent on charity. We are both Christian. Mary was very offended by this. She argued that her family donates to charity, that the wedding costs will fund the community, and that I'm in no place to judge, as we both live better than most people in the world, and I own luxury items. I didn't think the argument was that big of a deal until we returned home from the weekend. Last night, Will told me that his entire family was angry with me for insulting his mother, and that they think I'm biting the hand that feeds me. I owe his mother an apology. During this argument, he yelled at me for the first time in our relationship. He also said, "Just because your family is messed up doesn't mean you can bring it out on me." Am I the idiot? You are the idiot here. First, you behaved rudely towards your future mother-in-law, and the way you told it, she was caught unaware. You chose not to be actively involved up to that point, and then did a hard 180 the minute you heard the number. If you've agreed to have the big wedding both his sisters had, they likely spent the same on each of those. I understand you're uncomfortable with the idea of that amount of money being spent on an 8-hour day, but it's not your money, and you don't get to try to pseudo-guilt trip her with religious/spiritual manipulation. If you don't want $300,000 spent on your wedding, then that's absolutely your prerogative, but it doesn't excuse you letting loose in the car at her. Obviously, the two of you have both been speaking English, but not speaking the same language. There's a more appropriate, adult, respectful, and polite way to have that conversation and stand your ground. This was not it. $300,000 is a small wedding for rich people. My cousin married a big-time politician's son, and their wedding had about 500 or 600 guests. They basically rented out a whole Marriott hotel. These kinds of events are all schmoozing moments for these families. It's not what you know, but who you know. My cousin and her husband took home more than their parents invested in their wedding. This is so true. Rich people have extravagant 6-figure weddings for a reason. It's also, in a way, payback time for all that the groom's and bride's parents gave to their friends' kids in the past. It's reciprocity, and it's very important in that world. It's understandable that you'd be uncomfortable with the budget. But how you handled this was abysmal. Look, you don't have to have a big wedding, and you certainly don't have to spend $300,000, which is a lot of money. However, I don't think you can sit back, let Mary plan everything, and then complain about what she's planned. Either take charge of your own wedding plans or accept that others have planned things how they like them. If you're so proud of pulling yourself out of poverty and going to college, use that degree to learn to communicate and not be passive-aggressive. My husband, who is 30, and I, a 26-year-old female, recently married. I'd invited my friend Lizzie, a 27-year-old female, who was a bridesmaid at my wedding. A few days before the wedding, she told me the good news. She was pregnant. I was obviously over the moon for her and celebrated. She told me she was going to announce it at my wedding reception. I told her I was super happy for her in this new chapter of her life, but this was my day. This was my one special day. She can tell people literally tomorrow, but she can't tell anyone on my wedding day. I know I sound selfish, but my now husband and I have been waiting for this moment for years, and I don't want to share it. I want it to be my one day. Anyway, the day of the wedding comes, and she makes a speech. At the end of her remarks, Lizzie takes ultrasound pictures from her pocket and says, "I'm having a baby," and then goes and sits down. Everyone congratulated her, and I brought her aside and said, "What the heck did you do that for?" Her excuse was, "Because you announced your pregnancy the week I got engaged." I told her to leave. She didn't believe me. I told her she was pregnant, so she was definitely sober and could drive herself home. It was the most fantastic night, but I feel I may have been too harsh on her. But in the moment, I felt very much like it was my only choice. Anyway, Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You clearly expressed your boundaries and what you wanted from her on your special day. This was done without ambiguity. She clearly ignored what you asked of her, and rather than telling odd people here and there during the reception, she grandstanded about it during the speech, which should have been about the subject at hand, you and your wedding. It must have felt like a complete betrayal, which on your wedding day would have been difficult to take. Everyone knows you don't make announcements on other people's special days. I know etiquette changes over the years, but that rule still sticks. She definitely knew better in this case because you specifically asked her not to. Waiting until another day wouldn't have made her announcement any less exciting, but doing it at your wedding took some of the spotlight from you, at least temporarily. Very selfish of her and in poor taste. Nah, this was revenge, pure and simple. Lizzie was enraged because OP announced her pregnancy the same week she, Lizzie, got engaged, and instead of being an adult and talking to OP about it, she deliberately tried to spoil OP's wedding day. In any case, Lizzie's not a friend, and she's not a person worth having in your life. OP, you are within your rights to end this friendship. I don't even know what to say at this point. I, a 25-year-old female, and my husband, 27, have one child, Mila, a female toddler, and I'm 23 weeks pregnant with my second. My husband comes from a long line of males, and it's a huge joke in his family that they have only ever had boys. He's one of 8, all of whom are boys. When I married him at 23 and 25, I gave up my dream of ever having a daughter. During our honeymoon, we conceived Mila. My mother-in-law was overjoyed and started buying all these boy clothes and things for her grandson. At our 20-week scan, we found out we're having a girl. My husband and I were thrilled, but my mother-in-law, not so much. She accused me of cheating, saying that no son of hers could produce daughters, and suggested I should get an abortion, as it's the honorable thing to do. I didn't. She continued to make snarky comments about Mila. We have not found out about our second, but my mother-in-law was 100% certain it was a boy, again buying all the boy things. Then last week at our 20-week anatomy scan, we found out. Of course, it's another girl. I thought she'd been angry about Mila, but oh my goodness, she was furious now. She was calling me names and saying all these horrible things about me, right in mine and my husband's faces, while playing with Mila. All I could do is pick Mila up and go home. We left, but she's been coming to our house every day, demanding that we go and speak to her. Frankly, I'm terrified. She won't drop the fact that I cheated on him, and that Mila isn't her grandchild. She's demanding that we get a paternity test and prove that the baby is his, but I just really can't bear it right now. Am I the idiot for having a daughter and not doing a paternity test on her? Edit. Hubby's currently trying to find us a new place to live so his mother can't find us. Are you really questioning if you're the idiot for having 2 daughters, or rather asking if you're the idiot for not wanting to have to prove to your monster-in-law that those kids are indeed your husband's? You're not the idiot in both cases, by the way. What's your husband doing about this? How long has he been looking for a new place? It's cheaper to get a court-ordered restraining order. You should both stay no contact with her until she learns to behave. I would like to know if you can play her game. Say you will get both children tested, but she will sign a contract if she's wrong because she's so sure she's correct. She will buy you a new car, pay for the family to go to Disney, contribute to a college fund for each daughter in the amount of X money, and make a public apology on social media or a public apology in the local newspaper. OP, be creative. Your mother-in-law's delusional. No amount of physical proof will convince her. She'll accuse OP of faking the test results. The idea that a family can only produce one gender of child is ludicrous. There's no point in entertaining it. Honey, your monster-in-law sounds like one I used to have. Loony as a crap house rat. Good luck with that. I'm sorry, but your mother-in-law knows nothing about genetics. See, If I were petty, I would accuse the mother-in-law of cheating and having a son that made only girls. It doesn't make sense, but she doesn't know crap about genetics anyway. I hope the family is safe, and you have no contact with her.